On the morning of June 30th, 1908, something exploded over the remote forests of Siberia. Witnesses saw a blazing fireball tearing across the sky. Seconds later, a massive shockwave flattened millions of trees. An area larger than a major city was destroyed. But, strangely, there was no crater, no clear impact site. To this day, scientists still debate what truly happened. This mysterious event became known as the Tunguska Explosion. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Tunguska region of Siberia was one of the most isolated places on Earth. Endless forests stretched across thousands of kilometers. Small indigenous communities lived along the rivers, hunting and fishing in the wilderness. There were no major cities, no railways, and almost no scientific observers. This isolation is one reason why the Tunguska Event remained such a mystery. If the explosion had occurred over a populated region, the world might have understood what happened much sooner. But in 1908, the Siberian wilderness kept its secrets. Early that morning, people across Siberia began noticing something strange in the sky. Witnesses described a brilliant object moving rapidly across the horizon. Some said it looked like a second sun. Others described a fiery cylinder streaking through the sky. As the object passed overhead, the ground beneath it seemed to tremble. Moments later, a blinding flash lit up the landscape. Then came the shock wave. The blast was so powerful that windows shattered hundreds of kilometers away. In some villages, people were thrown from their chairs. Reports of the explosion were heard as far away as 800 kilometers from the center of the event. In the days following the explosion, something unusual happened across Europe and Asia. The night skies became strangely bright. In cities like London, people reported being able to read newspapers outdoors after midnight. Scientists later discovered that high-altitude dust from the explosion had spread through the atmosphere. These glowing nights continued for several days. It was one of the earliest clues that something extraordinary had occurred in Siberia. Nearly 2 decades later, scientists finally reached the center of the explosion. What they discovered was astonishing. More than 80 million trees had been flattened. The destruction covered an area of about 2,150 square kilometers. That is roughly the size of a large metropolitan city. The trees lay in a giant radial pattern pointing away from the center of the blast. It looked as if a massive force had exploded above the forest. Yet something even stranger appeared near the center. Some trees were still standing upright, but their branches had been stripped away. They looked like charred telephone poles rising from the ground. This pattern suggested that the explosion occurred high above the forest. The first scientific expedition to investigate the site was led by Russian mineralogist Leonid Kulik in 1927. Kulik had spent years trying to convince the Soviet government that a meteorite might have struck Siberia. When his team finally reached the remote region, the journey itself was extremely difficult. They traveled by train, riverboat, horse, and finally on foot through dense wilderness. When Kulik first saw the devastated forest, he realized the scale of the disaster was far larger than anyone had imagined. However, despite extensive searching, his team could not find a large impact crater, nor could they locate any major meteorite fragments. This absence puzzled scientists for decades. Today, Most scientists believe the Tunguska event was caused by an airburst explosion. A small asteroid, possibly between 50 and 80 meters in diameter, entered Earth's atmosphere at tremendous speed. As it descended, intense heat and pressure built up around the object. Eventually, the asteroid exploded in mid-air. The explosion likely occurred between 5 and 10 kilometers above the surface. The energy released was enormous. Some estimates suggest the blast was equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT. For comparison, that is about 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Because the explosion happened in the air, no large crater was formed. Despite the popularity of the airburst theory, many alternative explanations have been proposed over the years. Some scientists suggested the object might have been a comet rather than an asteroid. Comets are composed largely of ice and dust. If a comet exploded in the atmosphere, it might leave very few solid fragments behind. Other, more unusual theories have also appeared. Some researchers once proposed that the explosion was caused by antimatter. Others even speculated about a crashed alien spacecraft. However, most of these theories lack strong scientific evidence. Today, the airburst asteroid explanation remains the most widely accepted. Events like Tunguska are extremely rare, but they are not impossible. Astronomers estimate that objects capable of causing similar explosions may strike Earth every few hundred years. Fortunately, the 1908 explosion occurred over an almost uninhabited forest. If the same event happened above a modern city today, the consequences would be catastrophic. Entire metropolitan areas could be devastated within seconds. This possibility is one reason scientists now closely monitor near-Earth asteroids. Today, the forests of Tunguska have grown back. From above, the region once again appears calm and untouched. But beneath those trees lies the memory of one of the most powerful explosions in recorded history. More than a century later, the Tunguska event continues to fascinate scientists and mystery seekers alike. It remains a powerful reminder that our planet exists within a dynamic and unpredictable universe. And sometimes the greatest mysteries fall from the sky.